everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Kitchen Hacker. I'm Chris, the Kitchen Hacker, and today we're going to show you how to trim a rack of lamb. Don't be afraid, it's not that complicated, and with all the Costco's and BJ's that you can find the rack of lamb in, it's actually becoming very popular, so it kind of makes sense to learn how to do this. What we're going to do today is a traditional French rack of lamb, which is and where we clean the bones and make it into chops, or you can roast the whole rack itself. You do want to be careful when you're cooking this because there's not a lot of fat in lamb, so we want to make sure we leave some fat on the actual product so that it will get some of the moisture into the rack itself. So do pay attention and let's get started. So here is my rack. I got a great deal on it at the local Costco. So what I'd like to do is, check it out and get ready. There are basically two racks of lamb you're going to find out there. You're going to find what's called a domestic, and you're going to find the Australian rack of lamb. This one happens to be Australian, but its eye, the size of the actual piece itself, is about the size of a domestic. Slight difference in flavor will be found, but honestly the Australian is really it's gotten so much better than even 10 years ago when it was just kind of coming to market. You'll see here that they've already kind of Frenched it a little bit. We're going to take that to the next level and we're really going to dial it down. The eye is pretty solid, and I'm not getting a strong gamey smell that you shouldn't get, okay? The cryovac will sometimes do that. So you have this fat here across the top. Most of this is not bringing anything to the party, and we don't really necessarily need to keep it here. So we're going to start by trimming that, and then we're also going to trim off some of the silver skin, because if you remember from our how to do a fillet, the silver skin will never break down. It will never be tender. It will never add any flavor. So just get rid of as much as possible without totally trimming away any excess meat. So how I like to start and how I was shown is I come right across the top here, and I'm going to bring a cut straight across the top. Notice I'm using my boning knife here. And then I just kind of come down the bones, and I'm going to come down to that cut. I don't want to cut too far. I like to leave this band of fat at the top because I believe it also helps to break down and add some moisture to the rack as it's cooking. Another nice thing about rack is you get this great meat and it doesn't really take that long to cook. Alright, so there's that. The other thing I'm going to check is just across the back. Sometimes there's some little what we call chine bones might be in here, and I just want to take them out. Luckily this one seems to be pretty clear. I don't feel any. Usually they're right in this area. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is take off my silver skin. How I do it, gentle sawing motion. Start it, grab a little piece. Okay. This brings nothing, but try not to get too much meat with it. Obviously we want to keep it nice and clean. Notice how I try to do this away from me, especially on that first cut. And that second cut, I'm not pulling a lot. Now right here's where it gets tricky. If I keep going with that cut, I'll take off this whole piece here, which is kind of a large chunk of meat, and we don't want to lose that. So do be careful. And I leave most of the fat and stuff back here. Like I said, if there's anything big or crazy, I will take it off. But chances are people are not going to be eating that anyway. The thing about lamb is you don't cook it very long in this form, so anything you leave on there has to be able to break down relatively quickly. So that's why silver skin and the big chunks of fat are not necessarily that helpful. But because you're only going to cook this for maybe 20 minutes, depending on how you go about it. So that's not enough time to really break things down like, say, an hour or two with a roast, like a lamb roast. Alright, so I basically had the meat cleaned off. I have this nice little band of fat here that's right above the eye. I like to keep that. I think it helps, dissolve and add and baste a little flavor in there. And I think it looks good. Next thing we need to do is we need to get the meat out from in here. So I go down, and I go down, and then just across. Now, this does have some meat in it, so you can absolutely save this, make a little veal glace or stock with it. That's another show. But it's kind of like almost the spare rib part of a lamb, if you will. So it actually is pretty tasty. You can get some good flavor out of it. Okay. Just keep going down. Now, if you're going to make the traditional roast crown, you'd need 2 of these pieces to make the full circle. And then the other thing is we actually need to finish Frenching the bones. So you take that, you take one like this, and then you take another rack on the other side and you put it over here, and then you loop the string around it, and then you can put a nice stuffing in the middle. But the way these bones are now, they're going to actually get nasty and brown during the they'll stay nice and clean during the process. So I'm going to continue to do that throughout the rest of the rack, and tune in next time when I'll show you how to cook it. So that's it. Go out, buy yourself a nice rack of lamb, enjoy, and join us next time on The Kitchen Hacker, helping you cook like a pro.